Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. It is another episode of League Unlock. Mark here with you guys. It's a day where Riot and the rest of the boys and girls at HQ putting their hands together saying thank you, Based, Faker, and T1. It wasn't really Faker on the day, but World's viewership is saved. We avoid disaster. T1 will be heading to Worlds to defend their back-to-back World Championships, and not without a little bit of sweat happening for the first half of this series, though.
I think Riot HQ is actually more so accurately saying thank you, Oner, for making sure that things are going okay for T1 and continuing this type of run. But you are right. Things were getting crazy, a little bit nervous right out of the gates, and immediately for T1 with DK storming out to an advantage in game one and able to close things out very quickly. And again, keeping things interesting in that game two, where it is undecided who is in that driver's seat really, more or less. But actually, it's DK about halfway through game two until we get to the crazy team fights. And yes, I'm saying crazy team fights because there's about 2 or 3 of them in a row after this point where it is going massively one way or the other. It's not talking about 1 kill or 2 kills. We're talking like 3 kills, 4 kills, full team aces coming on through and swapping over next team fight. It's the other guy getting the advantage and how it worked through. Crazy start to this one.
And leading to big objectives. You know, T1 gets, or I think D+ gets Baron, you get an Otacon. It's not just like 9 people dead on the Rift, nobody's able to get anything. Like, it was an insane seesaw, and did look like T1 was going to be heading down to the O2 depths heading into this series, but then Oner decided to wake up. He put his backpack on, and everybody in T1 hopped in, and it started with this Jarvan performance. He has, I mean, some of these crazy team fights are immaculate out of him, surviving with 100 HP. And how about he's even rewarded by getting a J4 like Penta to close things out here? It's what planet are we on?
Pretty crazy. Now, I will say, out of all the LCK junglers, Oner's Jarvan is my favorite that we do get to see, so it's certainly not a surprise in that regard. But yes, pentakill to top it all off is that extra level of awesome that comes through from Oner for T1. I think I also want to give a quick little shout out and exploration. Does anyone actually know how much damage the Taliyah shove back, knockback is doing? Because I swear, yes, I know it's always comboed up with every other source of CC and damage coming through from the team when you catch someone out with it. But I swear, you hit one of them and it's just boom. Your boys are gone. Lucid caught out at the Dragon Pit, and he's donezo with that one. So, you know, yes, this one I think is a lot about Oner, really, at the end of the day, when you're talking about this game two and the rest of the series for T1. Little moment here for Faker on the Taliyah, making sure that those clutch knockbacks, shovebacks are coming through, and the rest of T1 is able to follow up and eliminate DK in that game too.
Yeah, especially, you know, game one was a little rough out of Faker, let's be honest, and a lot of T1, but you see signs of it with the Taliyah game, and then it comes full fruition on the Orianna game when you have everybody diving to kill the Orianna and unable to do it. And this is, of course, the Orianna combo with the Pantheon that we saw as Oner completely runs over the early game here. You know, game two, you're sweating for T1. By game three, you're going, okay, you got this locked in, and it only got worse and more dominant as this series goes on. But yeah, the 3 wins for T1. Oner's scoreline, 33 kills, 3 deaths, 24 assists. 33 kills as a jungler. He, save for the Jarvan game where he had 9 kills. The other 2, he had double-digit kills. Like, this guy was insane this series.
You'd step away from the series saying, wow, Oner is amazing, and thank you know, goodness we've got him on our team, if he had half of those numbers. Boy, he's putting up those insane, he's doubling it up and saying, take it, here's your extra fries in the bag, my guy, enjoy your meal. This was really something, I think that was great for T1 to see this, and it's been you know, really a continuation of where we have seen T1 be at their best throughout this year, has been when Oner is able to play like this and lead the charge. And frankly, it's happened a lot more than we've seen in previous years, previous championship years for T1. We've usually had to wait until the key moments or the big time events or whatever, and it has been able to come through with Oner's performances. That's not the story this year. It has been more so. It has been a very consistent thing for T1 to be talking about Oner leading a charge like this.
And let's face it, you can probably look at this entire 2025 year and you're saying Oner has been the most consistent and best player on T1. Doesn't matter if it's regular season or playoffs, throughout its entirety. You're talking about him being the most consistent. And we have to talk about wrapping up the series with the Rammus support coming in out of barrel. And the Rammus doesn't even really make a ton of sense into this comp. I mean, not only Gangplank obviously can orange right out of that, but even the AD carry, Misfortune, is like the least valuable champion that you can taunt in terms of AD carries, and with the Morgana Black Shield mid for Showmaker, but then you pick the Jhin. This draft out of D+ is something else.
And we've seen some something else type of drafts all the way through this LCK. Usually, occasionally, it's more or less actually been T1. That is the team that is making that type of mistake. This time, it is coming through from DK, and I think it really is speaking to the desperation that was at that moment to go through with this type of pick. The execution and game plan around it and everything else with this composition, I don't know if it was ever there from DK at that point. I think Barrel believers are fully in shambles at this point, having seen this performance, these decisions that come through. I think one of my favorites is there's a highlight clip going around, hyping it up like this is the biggest moment, biggest play. And it's just Rammus rolling around to ignite down in the bottom lane and roll back out. It's like, that's what we're going with. That's what we're saving it up for. Oh, man. But yes, I think saying that that's a highlight is being completely generous to what we saw through this game from Rammus and the rest of DK as T1 close out the series in very convincing fashion. And it is going to be T1 continuing their journey in the LCK, and we welcome DK as a new initiate to the ASI that we're going to be having later on.
And they might be the favorites at this Asian International Invitational event, and maybe they'll get some extra pocket change, although Barrel might be quickly into off-season mode and not ready for a whole other tournament.
I think a lot of people are questioning whether it's off-season mode or full-on retirement mode from Barrel at this point.
Extended
and I don't know.
Off-season. Yeah.
I don't mean that to be rude, but I just mean that's how bad the end of this series ended out for DK, and specifically how bad that Rammus game looked.
You got to be looking at, I think, a whole new bot lane for D+ Kia heading into the next year, however things end up playing out. But we advance the LCK gauntlet. This is just the beginning, because now you look at what's ahead on the weekend, and Mark, we have the clash, T1 versus Gen G. It's high-stakes elimination, just earlier in the bracket than you would expect, which means, yes, one of these two teams is going to be the 4th seed from the LCK that's going to match up against a poor old LPL 4 seed. To get to Worlds, they go, we got to beat the defending world champs, or we got to beat this team who's lost one best of 5 in like 6 months.
Who's scarier going in as a 4th seed is my question, really, because yes, T1 comes through and they have that magical aura around them, the story and everything else that is there. But Gen G being down there as that 4th seed, there's nobody that's going to question what type of power, how high you can rev that engine type of thing from that team. Whereas, if T1's down there, yes, you might be going, oh my goodness, this is T1 and everything else. But you can also look at some of the ups and downs, the struggles that you do tend to see with T1, even in these championship years. Hasn't been the same from Gen G. If they're on and they are performing like that, they're the top team or the 2nd top team type of thing. So having them as a 4th seed, holy moly, that is some scary business coming through from the LCK. But yes, this is familiar, unfamiliar territory where we are so familiar with getting a matchup of T1 and Gen G in the playoffs, whatever, throw it down. Loser's gonna head down to loser bracket and they'll fight their way back up, and here we go. Not this time around. It's loser's bracket right out of the get-go, so it is do or die for both of these squads, as you said, and it is going to be that one deciding who is that fourth seed for the LCK.
And I've got another vision, the threads of the universe. I see how it's playing out. The script is being typed out in front of me. You've got T1 beating Gen G. With Oner's level right now, Canyon just kind of getting gapped by Peanut in the last series. I see it. Gen G gets dropped to that fourth seed. But then they're heading to Worlds, and the expectations for once aren't really there for them. They're the fourth seed. They just lost back-to-back best of fives. I see them running the gambit and getting that first world championship with some of that pressure off of the shoulders.
Oh, going with a little bit of the T1 angle, sneaking in as that fourth seed of the LCK, taking that power trip all the way to the finals. You know what? I doubted you. I hesitated on the KT one, so I'm not going to doubt. I'm not going to hesitate with this one. I'll buy into it. I'll take Gen G as that fourth seed. I think that for me, it makes it pretty crazy thinking about then, okay, well, leapfrogging up ahead. Well, who is T1 playing in that next matchup? Because again, that upper bracket final is going to be KT and Hanwha Life. And the question for me is going to be, which one do you believe more so in that power of the upset that came through from KT, and they can continue that type of form, cohesion, all the communication that came into it, those type of things, and keep that power, keep that pedal down to the metal for them throughout these playoffs? Or is it going to be that Hanwha Life? And it's the Hanwha Life that we saw against T1. That is the Hanwha Life that was able to win first stand, that was able to be that front runner of the LCK to start out the year. That's more so the form that we are seeing from them in these playoffs. And is that form going to be there to pummel a KT? Or is it going to be BDD and the boys continuing this ferocious run through playoffs?
And you know what? Despite seeing the level that BDD and Cuz were at in that last series, which was like world class, absolutely world class, you also saw a level up out of that top side of Hanwha in both Zeka and Peanut. And we saw the Doc Dom Miracle going head-to-head against Ruler in that series. I don't feel like there's enough magic left to do that against Viper right now.
It's almost like, playing poker against someone and you see the best hand ever and you're like, whoa, crazy. Next hand,
I'll never get that hand again. No.
You surely can't have the exact same hand again. There's no way that one comes through. I'm not betting on that one, especially then also reflecting. Viper's in pretty darn good form in the way that he is playing and executing on being that win condition, being that big damage threat for this Hanwha Life team, and as well giving credit over to Zeus in that top side. Your boy just survived an encounter with Doran. That doesn't happen all that often where he's leaving the stadium with a smile at the end of the day after a showdown against Doran. So certainly going to give Hanwha Life their advantage, and I think earned and respected advantage in this one. But at the same time, keeping in mind what we've seen and the growth for KT, do not write them off. I think that would be criminal at this point, especially after the upset against Gen G.
Yeah, absolutely. They can. I'm expecting at least a competitive series, but I feel like Hanwha, seeing maybe some chinks in the armor of both T1 and Gen G, they've been the punching bag of these top three for the last couple of months. I think we're going to see a cathartic run to finals for Hanwha Life, maybe even taking down somebody like T1 or KT in those finals, but I wouldn't be shocked if we see Hanwha walking away with that title in the LCK. Other finals matchups over the weekend as well. We're talking LPL, and only 3 squads left. We've got AL versus TES to kick things off. BLG awaits the winner in finals. So we got to look at the first matchup, of course, and immediately you're looking at the jungle here. No question, these are the 2 best junglers in the league right now. We're talking Tarzan versus Kanavi. There's lots of other implications in this series, which mid laner can find their form in Cream versus Shanks. These two squads last played, it was like a month ago, and Cream absolutely gapped Shanks in that mid lane matchup. But both Kanavi and Tarzan are at such high levels right now. I don't know who to pick coming out ahead here.
Those are the extras, right? That's like trying to decide between two amazing dishes and going, okay, but this one's coming with a side salad, maybe some French fries, some rice, whatever. You're having to decide through on the auxiliary factors that are the things that are going to go through. That's what it feels like when you're talking Shanks or Cream, or their performance is going to be there. Because again, yes, it is, that's the French fry, that's the salad. Give me the burger. Give me the steak. Give me the real course of the meal. And that is, of course, that jungle matchup that you talked about. And to me, in this one, I want to see something interesting. I want to see some spice. I think we have had a relatively good period for the jungle meta where we have had different and new things come through. In the last week or two, I think throughout playoffs, not as interesting from that jungle angle. I want to see something really kicking it up and showcasing what type of dishes, what type of cuisine we can be dreaming of for a world championship. I want to see those two chefs in the kitchens of both of these squads cooking up.
And last time TES came out ahead here, you saw a full AP Maokai jungle out of Tarzan that did not work super well, but I'm not sure there's going to be many tanks picked in this series, because we've seen the Silas jungle come roaring through. Obviously, we've seen Kiana coming out. We've seen Tarzan play Zed in the past. I think we're getting some carry jungle performances pretty much across this whole series.
I need more of that Kiana jungle. I'll be screaming off the rooftops about that one, that I think that pick, as far as what it is capable of, how it executes, what it changes within compositions and where it wants to work. I think that type of angle is extremely exciting and very fun. And one of these things where I kind of go, okay, well, what do I want from my League of Legends? What do I want to see in these type of matchups? And frankly, going down that list, Kiana is type of one of those champions, one of those experiences that I haven't seen enough of in the last little while. So yes, want to see that one come through as a pick specifically in this series. But man, oh man, all this together, just fighting and this one, and waiting up top is BLG. That's kind of the crazy story to me about how things are in the LPL, given how things had been just a short month, a week and a half ago.
And truthfully, now with BLG as that final boss, even with the jungle carousel and all the memes going along there, I feel like Knight is so angry, motivated, inspired right now to doesn't have a title yet in 2025, has had a lot of third place, second, runner-up finishes throughout this year. I feel like he's thirsty for that first title of the year, and I don't see any level up from Cream or Shanks being able to match him right now.
Oh man, and it is really going to be one of those next level performances, because when you're talking about the way that Knight has been at for BLG, even with all these ups and downs, whoever's in the starting lineup for the jungle position and everything else, his form right now is that type of grabbing attention, just as I was talking about in the last series, where it is all about that main course meal. He's able to deliver a main course meal all on his own. It ain't about everything else coming together. It is about his individual performance. There are other aspects that you can look at and talk about still with a team like BLG, and as far as what goes right, what drives them, what pushes, all these things. But right now, you can really just simplify it down to the excellent performances from Knight and where he is able to gap and push that gap against the enemy team.
Down to the Final Four also in the LTA Regional Championship. Believe I got that one right. We got the last world spot on the line, 100 Thieves versus the Red Canids, which is going to be a banger. But I want to start with FlyQuest making their tournament debut, I guess, against Vivo Keatstars. And this is obviously the series that will not have Bwipo in it. Gakos is going to be starting. And I wonder if he performs well, is there an angle where he's maybe starting more games over Bwipo going forward towards Worlds?
I think there is an angle where you could see that shift happening more so, and I think this is certainly one of those shifts that initially was going to be more of a whole team organization, and including Bwipo more so into that conversation. I think given what has gone down, the scandal and, kind of the community reaction for it and everything else, I don't know if that card is in Bwipo's hands anymore. I think that card will be down to FlyQuest on how they feel specifically on how they want to play it individually for their organization, for their chances. That's going to be an angle that we'll have to see. And that'll obviously be so very much so based on that performance that we will see from him individually, where it'll go and how the expectations will be for so many people. But there's been enough time that I also think that, it could certainly be looked at as blown over, the community will move past it. I don't know. I'll hold on to that one because I think a lot of people have certainly had enough examples from Bwipo that they're going to hold on to this type of sentiment.
And 100 Thieves side of things, less off the rift drama. Everybody's rooting for Dokla, I feel like, on that top side. But Red looked really good in that first series. But 100 Thieves, 3-0'd Pain, but Red also 3-0'd them in their bracket. So I feel decent about 100 Thieves. But let me tell you, if the LTA South gets 2 of the 3 seeds, the memes will never die down for North America.
It felt like for Shopify, it was more so almost like getting caught with your pants down type of situation. Like, geez,
that's the
man,
LTA
I can't
special.
believe. Yeah, unfortunately, continuing that one from the LCS. But for having that happen, the question now is going to be, well, FlyQuest. I hope FlyQuest 100 Thieves. Excuse me. I hope you brought a belt. I hope you've got your pants, really securely on here at this point, because we better not be having any of those type of moments as the LTA. Absolutely one of these ones where it's not about disrespecting the power or the, capabilities of the Red Cannons. This is more so specifically about the LTA, specifically about that, the LTA North's strength and composition and how you're able to show that. You got to have 100 Thieves show out in this series.
And I think the top side, Dokla has fit in seamlessly. And again, River and Quid are playing at a really high level. I think 100 Thieves can get it done. What they do if they qualify for Worlds, well, that's a whole other can of worms that we're not going to get into right now. But at least make sure they show up. And if Red Cannons beat them, make sure it's a deserved win for them to represent at this year's World Championship. But that is it today for Liga Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you, stunning individuals. Thanks so much for hanging out, and we'll catch you on that flippity flip.